Welcome. I wish to welcome those who are in attendance and those who may be watching us online. This is the Mascenic Regional School Board meeting for academics on June 3rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. And I'd like to start out by doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Zoe, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right.
You and I, ready? That was not an option.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Zoe. The good news is the next time you're asked, you get to sing it. I'm sure. All right. Call to order. And it's 6:01. Let me ask, are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I've got a couple. First of all, we've got our retirees here, so we will be recognizing them this evening. Under new business, if we could add item D, contract with Gray Consulting for approval.
All right. Any other adjustments?
Yes, item E under new business, Washington DC trip approval.
All right. Any other new business?
I do not have anything else at the moment.
I would also like to add under new business, a letter from a concerned citizen, have that discussion. So if you'll add that to your agenda. Anybody else want to make any adjustments to the agenda? All right, the date and time of our next meeting will be June 15th at 6 p.m. and that will be the financial focus meeting. And so have you all reviewed the minutes? All right. Any corrections, additions, deletions to the minutes? Any discussion? May I have a motion to accept the minutes? May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it was unanimous. I abstain. I was not present. Okay. All right, good. We have a moment here for public comment. Do we have anybody here who wishes to address the board with a public comment or concern or question? Do we have anybody online? No.
We do not.
Okay. All right. Should we have someone come in during the course of the meeting that would like to address the board, we will stop where we are and take that on.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to go back a step for an agenda adjustment and add a report to the board from the student representative
Okay.
for the board. I don't know if that's
And where would you like to add that?
under reports to the board, probably first.
Zoe, we're going to hear from you again.
And then that way, if there's any interest or willingness, she can stay. Otherwise, I think she can decide when to leave.
Is it true? I understand that you begged to stay for the full meeting? All right. Thank you, Zoe. We're looking forward to your report. All right. Board chair remarks. I don't really have much to say tonight. I want to thank Jeremy for filling in for me and for the board, carrying through all of its responsibilities during my absence. I'm sure they did a great job. But I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge our awardees tonight. We have some very special guests tonight who have done heroic things over a long period of time. And I'm amazed as I'm looking at the group how young they look, given all the years that they have put in. So I'm going to come up and And out a few awards. Okay, the first person that I would like to acknowledge is Pam Worcester. Pam, you put in 37 years as a paraprofessional in the school district. How come you're quitting so soon?
Believe me, I don't want to, but health-wise, I have to.
Well, I understand, but I want you to know that we in the entire district and all the students that you've interacted with appreciate everything you've done.
Believe me, I've enjoyed every minute of it.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. That's love and dedication. So with that being said, I wish to give this to you.
Thank you.
Lisa Wilkinson. Let's see, Lisa, lifelong career in education, beginning as a teacher at the region and serving 8 years as the assistant principal at Highbridge Hill Elementary School. What a fresh job. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Lisa, I've heard great things about you. And we really appreciate everything that you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, and I'm terrible at pronunciations. Tell us how do you pronounce your last name?
Pasika.
Pasika.
Mr. Chairman.
Exactly how I was going to pronounce it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may I present?
yes, you may.
Oh, no.
I'm not going to look at the notes, Tex. You have always
Been a
been
long
there
time.
for me. It has been a very long journey and it is an incredible.
It has.
And I miss you, Terry.
I'll be around. Thank you.
It's amazing because those were the exact words I was going to say.
Take your mind.
Next, Grace Lewandowski. Grace, 22 years teaching math at the high school.
Call me crazy.
I remember when I took math, I don't think I could have handled being a math student for anywhere near 22 years, but that's dedication, this course, and we greatly appreciate your contributions to the students.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, Andrea Stone.
No. Savona.
Simone. Oh, I'm sorry, Simone. Is that you? Okay. I feel bad because I don't know. But 11 years in the district, currently a paraprofessional working 1 year as a business teacher. All of you, and certainly you, Andrea, that you have made incredible contributions. And one thing I learned, I was a teacher at one point. And one of the students said to me, and this was probably the best thing that's ever been said, and I know this applies to all of you, is that the months that you spend with the student, you hope to see that it's taking, that progress is being made, that they're learning, that they're appreciating it, that you are a mentor, a guide, you're a role model. And I remember she said, I am going to remember your class and what you taught forever, at that point, I decided I didn't need to get paid. That was the best gift, and I'm sure so many of your students, colleagues, feel exactly the same way. It's working with you. So I want to thank you very much. Thank you. We have two people who could not make it tonight. Ellen Carabella and Shirley Westcott. Ellen, she skipped. She only put in 23 years. And Shirley Westcott put in 26 years. And we want to thank them. I'm sure they get their awards as well. So we want to acknowledge them publicly. So thanks very much.
We can just do one picture of all of you with the chair, with the board, maybe. My camera's being a little fickle. I want to get one good one. Yes.
Okay.
You can hold your board, Grace, you give him the vial. Hey, Ellen, you're cheating. Yes.
Oh.
Okay, and I'm gonna actually ask Lisa if you can come in front of Jeremy. Just go on the side. There we go. Okay. No, Pam, you're too tall. There we go, Jeremy, perfect. Okay. Say, happy retirement. Happy retirement. I don't know what's happening. Thanks, folks. Thank you. Dismissed. Class dismissed. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
Then the only other remark I wish to make is just a reminder that the Mascenic High School graduation is this Friday evening. And so if you can attend, that would be fantastic. I understand that we're going to have phenomenal speakers at the graduation. All right.
We'll do our best.
Assistant Superintendent?
You're gonna do Zoe first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Zoe. You know, we made this big deal and then I was so taken back by your Pledge of Allegiance that I completely forgot about it. Zoe, would you like to give your report?
Yes. I am nervous. This is my second time doing this. I am a bit nervous.
That's okay.
Mostly what I've caught on from the students themselves, including myself, was first of all the student schedules. I had recently asked Mr. Pickering about this, and he had confirmed that they would have come out at a very close time, and then they came out the next day. So everybody personally liked the fact that the teachers were coming in and giving us like our schedules the best that they can, like for where we are, instead of everybody just crowding around like an office or the English is a very difficult language. Or just crowding around in one small spot trying to get your schedule and then having to end up missing half a class. The tips mainly for switching classes with the I almost said superintendent for a second. With the
Council office?
yes. With the student counselors, it's much easier trying to communicate via email than everybody, again, just crowding the office at once, like a bunch of people trying to go into a tiny box. Another thing I'd like to report on is the Brown Center student workshops. It was a fun event for a lot of people, like team building. You'd actually do physical activities instead of having to stare at a computer screen. But not all the students preferably enjoyed that because not a lot of them communicate well with people, or not a lot really interact with people in general. So it is a popular one with most people, but there are couples that just genuinely don't like interacting with people or the group of people that they were put in with. The Great East Music Festival, that was a recent event that came up with the choir and band, having them already getting the awards and having finally been fully done with the year of gathering up music, practicing day in and day out. It had shown like growth in the group with the band and choir, making it more of a eventful and memorable event. Another thing that I'd like to talk about is the students mainly are talking about this rumor about the school's budgeting, and mainly how that if it keeps deteriorating, for a case of words, that the middle school might have to close down. And some teachers have confirmed this. I'm not naming any names, but still, a lot of people are starting to talk about like the extracurricular activities, new classes that are coming in, like the new home building class in the high school. They're wondering how long that's going to survive. Also, for new clubs or any clubs that might start to get removed due to budget cuts. That is a main concern around a bunch of the students. One last thing though, I've heard a lot of seniors mainly saying how the graduation run through is going pretty smoothly, having a very easy run set through, and how they just genuinely enjoy like the convenience of having a really good team to run through it with them. That's all I really had to report on. Thank you.
Zoe, thank you very much. At this point, I need to ask you, are you sure you want to stay for the whole meeting, or are you wishing to leave?
Am I going to be needed for anything else? Are there any more? I mean, I'd stay if I have to like comment on anything, if there are any reports that you want the students' point of view on. If there's anything that I need that I can help with, I'd stay.
Well, I think speaking for the board, and of course I'm wrong half the time, but speaking for the board, I think your report was very thorough and very well done. And we really appreciate the information that you shared was important information. If we have any questions, we can always reach out to you outside of the meeting. And I'd hate to see you ruin your evening. So
This isn't ruining my evening. This is actually making it very productive.
very good. I appreciate it. Then by all means, stay throughout the entire night.
If you'd like.
Stay as long as you want.
Yeah. Yeah, you may hear some interesting things, but it'll be up to you when you want to leave. Okay? All right. It's good to have you here. All right, Assistant Superintendent.
Hello. It's been a busy day in Mascenic, and we'll get to some of those a little bit later, but I do want to give you an update, not only my update, but I will also speak a little bit for the BMS, to the BMS update that we've got in the folder for you. So just 6 days left of school across the district. Graduation is this Friday. It has been a productive year, if I could give it one adjective, one verb. We have done a lot this year in terms of our partnership with NHLI in the work that has gone into every single one of our professional development days this year. It didn't leave a lot of room for school administrators to do their work, but needless to say, school administrators still did their work. They capitalized on those staff meeting days. They used department meetings, their department heads and leadership team meetings to bring things forward. So we have just had a really, really productive year. We're looking forward to summer. We have the most robust proposals this year that we have had since I have been with the district. We have several camps you're going to see on the personnel slate for summer projects, and a ton more professional development activities. we're looking at about $30,000-ish of projects that are going to happen this summer with the combination of those two things. Again, with so much going into the initiatives that we had done this year, I didn't expect quite such a robust professional development summer, but we've energized people this summer. And that sort of sends a nice little, it's a little piece of data to say, okay, people still have some energy to put into things and are still willing to do some work beyond the school year. So we are wrapping up phase 2 of our NHLI. We have content competencies that are ready to launch in the fall. So we're looking forward to that. Next year, we start talking more and practicing more around instruction, assessment, feedback to students, methodologies for what this looks like and how we operationalize this work. So we're off to a really good start there. I did have an opportunity to meet with the BMS athletics group on May 20th. They're going to have some good news to share at our next board meeting. I believe that we have met at least one of the thresholds already. So we're very excited and grateful to the American Legion Auxiliary. They have come through a couple of times this year for the district, and we are super, super grateful that they are willing to contribute to the efforts of our district in the ways that they have. Kyle Barker of Barker Associates has completed the full enrollment projection study. I have not had an opportunity to digest any of that as of yet, but that will be coming forward at the next board meeting as well. I do have it if anyone would like an advanced copy, so you can take a look. I'm happy to send that out. We've got a couple of legislative things to talk about here this evening. By and large, really open enrollment. Open enrollment is a topic. It is continually in the legislature. It is a wrestling match for sure. We have some things to take care of here in terms of setting tuition rates. And the biggest worry about open enrollment in the legislation right now is how this impacts us and how do we predict for the future with some of the laws and legislation that's going on. What I hear, however, is that the governor does not believe that any of the things that are currently set to go to her desk are ready for prime time. So I think we are going to be able to hold to the current status for a little bit longer, which is not a bad thing. And then graduation. I just want to acknowledge the amount of work that the folks do behind the scenes to make graduation happen. You've got the administrative team who are organizing the day-to-day activities and ensuring that our graduates are meeting the requirements set forth in our handbook and by the state of New Hampshire, and creating opportunities for students who are almost there till the very last minute. They are trying to inject as much as they can into getting kids across that finish line, as do our instructors, our teachers, and our paraprofessionals and all of those folks. Donna Benoit in the counseling office, above and beyond this time of year, their responsibilities, a lot of late nights for those folks, but they are committed and dedicated to making this happen for our graduates. And we are all just very proud of them. They're going to make it across that stage on Friday, and we look forward to it. BMS, just a little bit from BMS, a couple of updates. First, I want to say a huge thank you to folks who stepped in to take over for Frozen Junior, Miss Brittany Brooks, Mr. Jufrey, Ms. Howard, Mrs. Kane, Mrs. Allen, and everyone else who rallied around the kiddos for Frozen Junior, Mr. Spratt, Deb Spratt, all of the folks who spent a considerable amount of time making sure kids could get this production off the ground and prime time for families. There was an incredible turnout Friday night. There were a lot of events at the high school, and it generated some interest. That auditorium was full, the reports I heard. So very excited. Kids, very grateful to people for jumping in times of need. So Saturday school at BMS has been offered 2 to 3 Saturdays in each quarter. and Saturday school has been successful. We've got a lot of kids who've gone through, who've completed assignments, who've made up some work and are now doing better. So feedback from students and parents has been positive. While students appreciate the support, snacks have also been their favorite part. Frozen Junior was a box office smash. Kudos to Mr. Landry, the cast, and again, all of those other folks who stepped in when we needed them. New Hampshire's SAS testing wrapped up last week. Thank you to Mrs. Hill for coordinating and ensuring all testing procedures were followed. Mrs. Hill has stepped in for Mrs. LaBelle, so she's doing double duty in that respect. So we are certainly really eternally grateful for Mrs. Hill for taking on 2 roles at once. BMS staff successfully completed an awesome postcard blitz the last week in May. I heard from a parent today. They received 2 postcards, one for each of her children, and they were delighted to get the mail and to hear from teachers. And essentially, teachers had a stack of postcards, and they were able to find some students that they wanted to send a note home to, and they did it for every kid in the school. So every middle schooler should have received a postcard. June 2nd, students will enjoy ice cream during lunches thanks to the PTSO. June 5th, music students will travel to the Great East Festival for adjudicated performances, followed by constructive feedback sessions, and time at Canopy Lake Park after that. June 8th, there will be a school-wide assembly, presentation of the PE 100-Mile Challenge Awards, and America's 250th celebration. Field days are planned for grade 7 on June 9th, grade 5th, June 10th. Grade 8 will have a farewell June 10th at 6 p.m. And June 11th, grade 8 students will go bowling at Kimball's and get ice cream at Kimball's. And that's it. That's it for my update this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions or take them back to the BMS staff.
I had some sports updates for Boynton.
Please.
Just congratulations to all the kids that they did for a great, outstanding season. Looks like that the girls softball team fell a little bit short in their first playoff game, losing 10-9. Boys baseball has their first playoff game tomorrow. It's going to be over at Mascenic starting at 3:30 if you could attend. The track team did great this year as well. We actually had a total of 5 different runners that will be competing in the Meet of Champions, 2 in individual events. One is the 800 meters for the boys, and the other is the 100 meters girls hurdles. And then we have our 4x100 girls relay team also made the Meet of Champions. So that's on June 9th as well. So it's at a memorial in Manchester if anyone is able to attend. So that's it.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I got it. The Saturday school, I think it was a great move to improve academics. Is there any data tracking to say that before and after to see if there's a meaningful increase in any of the, like an aggregate increase or any positive measurements that we could see?
Yeah, I will say we have sort of just an informal recount. I don't think that there was necessarily a target data that we were going after. What we were looking for is to help students to recover some of the learning that they had either not participated in when it was time, or something that they needed a little more help with. So I have some anecdotal. I really have anecdotal. I don't have anything tangible. I apologize.
Anything else?
Just for the record, Melissa, while you were on the, Frozen and those activities, just for the record, the high school choral group with less than 12 members at the last judge competition, if you think on the Olympic scale, bronze, silver, and gold, they got platinum. So he has brought that program a long, long way.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Thank you very much, Melissa. I understand you're going to be giving the report on student services.
I will just briefly say that the report is there. What I do want to call your attention to, and forgive me for just a second, I'm trying to do triple duty in my mind here. What I do want to call your attention to is there is a letter attached to the students, I'm hoping. No.
Would you like us to come back to that item?
I think I can pull it together here, maybe. Yes. Okay. So I just want to call your attention to, I'm skipping ahead a little bit. If there are any questions about Mrs. McBee's report, I certainly can bring them back to her. This is going to be Mrs. McBee's final report. You will see in the personnel report that you'll see a change coming forward for the next school year. But here, what I wanted to call your attention to in the new business folder is that we got a 100% compliance letter for indicator 13 prong 2 monitoring. That is something that Mrs. McBee and the folks at the high school have been working on all year long. We had a little bit of a correction to do, and we are now in 100% compliance. So kudos to Mrs. McBee and the team over at the high school for getting that all together, doing the work that needed to be done to make us whole in that, in respect to indicator 13.
Anything else?
And that's it.
Any comments or questions? All right. Mr. Pickering, would you like to give your report?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to start by thanking everybody in the community, everybody in this room for affording me the opportunity to enjoy such a meaningful year. I got into education with the purpose of doing the most meaningful work I can, and to date, this has been the most meaningful year so far. So thank you to everyone, anyone out there listening. Thank you very much. It's an honor and a privilege to serve. The overarching theme of my board report is that MRHS is at the same time celebrating the culmination of what I consider a successful school year, while also deliberately positioning ourselves for continued growth and improvement into the future. Obviously, as we approach graduation here on Friday and engage in other end of the year milestones, my report reflects a school community that has a lot to celebrate, too much so that I can't include it all in the board report. Student accomplishments in academics, the arts, athletics, personalized learning, and character development are highlights of my report, while I've tried to remain candid about the areas where continued work is needed. There's a strong emphasis in the report on recognizing the contributions of all of our students and staff, the efforts to foster a positive school culture, as well as honoring the collective effort that makes these things possible. The spirit of the report, I think, is one of pride without complacency or hubris. We want to always celebrate our progress while maintaining a clear focus on future improvement. At the same time, the report highlights a school that is a school and staff that are thinking strategically about what comes next. Be that through analyzing assessment data, as provided in the board report to some degree, strengthening our science and mathematics outcomes, building a more coordinated intervention framework, specifically how we leverage Viking Block, and other opportunities, how we innovate. The board report talks about, gives some staff updates, which can kind of be a fluid thing, day to day, as I'm kind of finding out, and that's okay. Scheduling for next year, I'm very proud of the counseling department. Gotta praise Donna Benoit's efforts and many others as well, but she's certainly kind of the tip of the spear, so to speak. So we're also really heavily involved in redesigning the transition experience for our incoming ninth graders. Nothing is finalized yet, but we have some very concrete ideas in place, and we're reaching out very deliberately to set them up for success in a non-traditional way in terms of, we'll focus on, we do that orienting of the building and schedules and rules and expectations, but also really building a strong framework for relationship building and collaboration and cooperation at the next level for them. I think the message to the board is that MRHS is ending the year from a position of stability and momentum. From my perspective, speaking for myself, taking time to honor our achievements and traditions while thoughtfully laying the groundwork for a stronger, more connected, and more student-centered future. So I'll refrain from reading all of the highlights in the report.
Thank you. But don't feel shy to send them out via email, because I think we'd all love to see them. And it'd be give a chance for you to acknowledge, bring attention to it. So I think that would be good.
Yeah.
Any comments or discussion? Well, yes, I will echo what Steve just said. Well done. It's nice to have you here. This is your first year. And we had confidence. I remember meeting you in the cafeteria, and very happy to have you here.
Well, thank you. I'm always nervous, and somebody said once, if you're nervous, that shows you care, and I certainly do care, and I'm certainly just a small piece of all of these successes have to do with, Grace Lewandowska, who left the room, that's just the truth of the matter, so it's an honor and I appreciate it. Thank you. Sports highlights, both the softball and baseball teams were winning when I left the fields today in their first round playoff game, so anyway, that was good.
All right. All right. Moving on to Boynton Middle School. That's great. We already did that. That's right. All right. Principal of Highbridge.
All righty.
Mr. Saunders.
Yeah, thank you. I've got a lot to share. It's been certainly busy, but want to echo some of the statements from tonight that we're wrapping up really what was a busy, but I would say very successful year at Highbridge. Lots of new, much of which is my report that I'm going to mention a few of the things, and still kept the traditions that are important to us and to our buildings. So I'm going to acknowledge a couple of things here. So first off, we had a couple of field trips take place since our last meeting. I would say in my first year when I came in, field trips had really not gotten back off the ground since COVID kind of just put a stop to all of those things, right? And so we're slowly finding the things that people enjoy and that are worth our time. So our first grade team went to Bolton to Animal Adventures. This was a first time there for our school, connected to their science unit on life cycles. It was met with great feedback. Last year, they went on a different trip and it was sort of mixed. So we said, let's try something else. Really was a positive trip. Everyone seemed to really enjoy it. And I think they want to consider it again for next year. Another first for us this year, on the 7th, we had Eshwelot Music came and provided an assembly for our school. We had a piano trio. Being a former music teacher and a musician myself, I could tell you they were beyond talented, and they performed a number of tunes for our kiddos and talked about not just the songs they played, but the importance of perseverance and practice and trial and error and finding the things that you love. And they were just really great. Really, the performances were really top notch. It was great to have them in. On the 13th, I want to recognize we had 22 students from Highbridge that participated in the district-wide chorus event. Our program at Highbridge continues to grow, which is great because we know the music positions at the middle and high school really have had a huge impact, and we want to continue to support them. So I would like to just extend a thank you to the entire music department across the district for organizing a district-wide event like this and including our youngest musicians all the way up to our oldest. So a great event there again. This was a first for Highbridge as well. Again, lots of firsts here. We had a spring fling dance event this year. This was actually a senior project. So I'd like to give a shout out to seniors Maddie Elliott and Emily Ashore as part of their civics engagement project with their teacher Ian McGregor. They approached me about putting on an event at Highbridge Hill. They did the planning, the organizing. I just set up a space for them. We had about 15 families come and participate. They had a great time playing, dancing, enjoying some snacks and drinks. So I think kudos again to some seniors for really reaching across schools and putting something together for our littles. So that was a great first event for us there. Our third graders went on another one of our field trips. They went to Worcester to the Hanover Theater to see a play, Ada Twist, Scientist and Friends. This relates to their science units on STEM. Leading up to this, they read a number of the books by Andrea Beatty that are about these characters. Then they participated in a whole number of science activities at school leading up to this. Students really came back pretty excited about it, said it was really a pretty great experience. For many of them, it was their first time, in a real a theater setting like that. And it's a pretty massive theater if you've ever been to the Hanover. So great experience for them. May 20th, we held our second ABC fashion show for kindergarten. Second time doing this event. This is their exhibition of learning. Students get to walk the red carpet, talk a little bit about their letter, and they wear some signage of the words that start with their letter, and they do a couple of songs about it. Just a great culminating event for kindergartners. Really a lot of shy students, but they just did a great job. They made us proud. So on the 21st, we recognized Memorial Day, and last year we had planned to have the band and chorus join us, and it got rained out last year. This year we moved it indoors. I want to say thank you to Tom Jufrey from the high school. He brought the choir over. And again, speaking from, echoing Mr. Spratt's statement, for a small group, when they started singing, you could hear a pin drop in our gym, and the entire student body was there. They were really phenomenal. So kudos to them. They did a couple patriotic tunes for us. We talked about Memorial Day and how, as elementary students, things you could do to recognize Memorial Day over the long weekend. So it was great. We also recognized the 250th year of our country with some signage and some acknowledgments there. We've got still a number of great events coming up here, and just some to-dos, nuts and bolts. Tomorrow, we're actually going to have our final CSI visit from NHED. Corbett Coots coming down to sit, and Miss Gray and I we had a lengthy to-do for him to help develop our summary. It was quite involved, but we both submitted our reports to him, and he's coming tomorrow to sit with me and share the outcome of those. And while I do enjoy my time with him, I'm happy to say that this will be our last time sitting down and having this conversation. So that will be tomorrow, culminating event. Ice cream, you'll remember back to the kids vote. Our students at Highbridge voted for ice cream instead of our barbecue. Tomorrow, we're having our ice cream celebration for the entire school. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Hayward's Ice Cream, donated all of the ice cream for this event. So thank you to them. They also provided us with some free ice cream certificates to give to all of our fourth graders at the end of the year as we're moving on. So we've got some really great stuff there. Along with that, our fourth graders will all be receiving a book as part of the proceeds from our book fair that was hugely successful. We've purchased books for all of our fourth graders for the end of the year as a sort of from their teacher to them as a going away. So looking forward to that. This Friday is going to be our Step Up Day event. Our fourth graders are going to take a bus over to Boynton Middle School and have a little Q&A session with the administration and get a tour as their preparation for transition. Later in the day, our kindergarten through third grade students will get to go meet their teachers for next year, which is always exciting and nerve-wracking for them. We've got field day next week, K-2 on Monday, 3 and 4 on Tuesday. Our fourth grade clap out, which I would invite all of you to. We do it right at dismissal on Thursday. Our fourth graders on their way out, the parents are invited in. We line the hallways and we just clap them out as they leave for the last time from Highbridge. It's just a super quick, short event, but is I think important as we sort of say goodbye to those kiddos. And then the last thing I'd like to share, I'd just like to acknowledge we had 4 retirees from Highbridge Hill this year. Lisa Wilkinson, who was here, Ellen Caravella, kindergarten teacher, Shirlene Westcott, and Andrea Sabona, paraprofessionals. These 4 individuals have put a lot of time into this district and into these students, and we wish them all the best and want to thank them for their contributions over the years. I know at least one of them has promised to come back and substitute, so I'm going to try to hold her to that and not let her get away. But overall, great contributions, wonderful time and dedication to our building. We acknowledged them at our we had a luncheon for them on our workshop day and gave them some sort of gifts from the staff. But again, really top notch. Can't say enough about any of those folks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanders. Very much appreciate. Any comments or questions?
So what do I say that these showcases of learning that you're putting together are really just fantastic. Fortunate that I have two in hybrid, so I was able to see the ABC fashion show, which was fantastic. And I know you didn't mention it because it, report came in beforehand, but the Living Museum was once again just a fantastic event, and it really engaged with the learning and what the kids are doing. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
A lot of good work by all the schools. Very much appreciated. Thank you. All right, moving on to unfinished business. Absolutely, Zoe. Thank you for participating. Promise you won't have to do the pledge the next time.
Well done. See you later.
Thank you.
You too.
First item of unfinished business is committee assignments. Now, I need to ask, has there been discussion about committee assignments while I was gone?
We discussed waiting for you to come back to discuss them.
That's what I heard, but I was hoping that wasn't quite accurate.
If you discuss that Steve isn't on any of the that he's going to sign up for all of them.
Discussion about kicking the can down the road.
Well, if you have your computer, we have the assignments as they were last year. One thing that I noticed, I'm interested in trying to have it be kind of an equal distribution. And I see, Tim, you are on the policy committee, the facilities committee, and the technology committee. And so what I would like to suggest is, if it's okay with you, is removing you from the facilities committee and having you just do two. But let me hear from, and the question I have for you as well as for everybody else is, the committees that you're all on right now, is that a committee that you would be interested in continuing on? Or do either of you or any of you have an interest in a different particular committee?
I'm good where I'm at.
You,
There's one committee that doesn't take up hardly any time, and then there's another committee that takes up a huge amount of time. So it's a nice balance, I think.
all right.
I'd agree with that. Same with me.
Same with you? Okay.
And I like the adjustments throughout policies.
Now, Steve, I know that you had shared that you were interested in negotiations, and the issue there is if
My two interests are policy and negotiation.
and negotiations, yeah. If Ellen stays on the negotiations and I'm on there, then we end up having a quorum with the three of us. So let me ask you this. I would like to ask if you could take on the facilities and if you would take on the advisory budget committee.
I'd like time to think about that.
Okay. And then I'm also going to be gone from mid-September to mid-October. And I'm not sure. I understand negotiations are going to be starting early this year. Do you anticipate they will still be going on at that point?
I would imagine we will have absolutely in September still be working through.
Okay. I would definitely like you to take my place. Well, I'll be gone for a month. And I'm sure that those meetings will occur at least weekly, if not a couple per week, to get it done. So that we were a little surprised by how long it took last year. So it took to the end of till December while we were still doing budget work as well. So give me some thought as, think about the facilities.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be close.
No.
20 years I've spent either negotiating or on policy.
Okay.
Those I know well, and I know the connections, the state and whatever, that helped me in both instances.
Okay.
And I've worked with our attorney for probably the last 14 years.
All right. I don't see a problem in putting you on the policy committee and having three people. Well, You can't do that. You can't do that. All right, I would appreciate if people will do for me, because we still have time to make a decision. If people, as the committees are now, I'm going to presume that's your preference. But could you all send to me your second choice if you were to give up one committee? So we can find a place that fits for everybody. And if you can do that over the next couple of weeks, give it some thought. Okay. And we will continue to have this on the agenda for a while.
Okay.
Okay. All right. One last question about committees. Has anybody thought of a committee that you think we should have that we don't?
Pass the budget committee.
Pass the budget committee. You think that would be important? I don't know. No, seriously, if you could think of an area that you think the board should be involved in as a committee member, please forward that to me as well. Okay, I would appreciate that. All right. School calendar, Ms. Gray?
Yes, so the board approved some updates to contracts, and in that conversation, there was an adjustment to the number of paid holidays for employees. And so what you see in the folder this evening is an updated calendar that adds holidays and denotes the holidays, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve as closed district-wide days. That's the only adjustment there. We just need your approval to adopt this final calendar.
All right. May I have a motion to adopt this calendar as the final calendar? Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Approved.
Okay.
Ms. Gray, the athletics update?
I gave a little teaser to this already,
You
but
did. You did.
but we will have I anticipate that we'll have a donation the next time that the board convenes with at least fall athletics funded for BMS. So the folks who have done this work have really put in a ton of effort and energy and to this work, to this effort. And they're determined to make this happen. And we are just, I'm in awe of what they've pulled off so far. So again, American Legion Auxiliary has been a special advocate for this particular effort. So we're grateful.
Yeah, and I want to point out on that, I've noticed that some of the people that are very active and working so hard with this don't even have students in the middle school.
No.
And
No.
that's quite impressive.
Yeah, a lot of families and a lot of creative solutions to a very complex, and not to be left unsaid is that families are really have a lot on their plates this time of year, right? So a lot of fundraisers going on in the spring for a variety of things, athletics, recreational things, recreational athletics, and just end of year festivities. Prepping for summer camps for kids, for example, for their own students, their own children. So a lot of families are already financially contributing in so many ways. And these folks have found ways to provide entertainment and fun and all of the things to continue to push this initiative forward. So yeah, they really are. They really are. And they're coming at night and doing this in their own time. And so can't thank them enough.
I think you have the next report as well.
Is it me again?
Yeah.
All right. So a couple of things. Tuition rate for non-resident students. You'll see a notice from Mrs. Anderson related to open enrollment in the tuition rate. The RSA is pretty clear here that the district can charge at not less than 80% of the sending district's average cost per pupil as determined by the Department of Education. So in the example below, you see Mason's cost per pupil at $21,781.18. The most recent cost per pupil that's published is FY25's, and that's the rate that you see here. We would use FY25 to set our tuition rate as well. And what we believe is responsible and fair is 80%. That's the recommendation we're making going forward. But of course, it's for board approval to set the tuition rate. So if we set this particular example at 80%, we would be charging any students who would be coming from the Mason School District $17,424.94. I do want to offer a point of clarity here, and that is that that this is separate from private pay. This would be an agreement with another district. Okay, the private pay rate, you all had set that a while back. That's at 55% of our cost per pupil.
Question regarding special ed services. Where does that factor?
Yeah, so the current the current law as it stands, special education services are billed to the sending district.
Okay.
Transportation services are not included in tuition. They have to self-transport or be able to take advantage of a bus stop that we currently run. The second piece of this is seats, and I did want to talk about that a little bit as well. As you consider the open enrollment rate of 80%, we did have a vote in March to set the limit of open enrollment to 10% of our total enrollment. That's about 90 students currently. In accordance with policy JF, the district must set capacity limits for open enrollment to be made public by July 30th. Ideally, we have that by June 30. We already have people who are interested in taking advantage of seats. So I do want to get this out sooner rather than later if the board would indulge. The following capacity limits are anticipated. Hybrid Hill, we have 5 seats at kindergarten, 4 seats at grade 1 that can be opened up. At Boynton Middle School, we have 12 to 15 seats at grade 6 that we can open up. And Mascenic Regional High School, 6 to 8 seats per grade, about 10% of their current enrollment per grade we could open up for a total between 45 and 56 seats. And that allows us to stay within the constraints of policy JF. And there are some conditions under that policy that we must take into consideration. And I'll share those with you just so that everyone knows. Personnel limitations, right? We don't want to open seats and then have it be stuck where we don't have enough teachers to teach. Physical space, budgetary constraints, enrollment trends, program-specific limitations. For example, if we're running a advanced lab course where we're going to be handling dangerous chemicals and we need to limit the number of students in that kind of a program, those kinds of things. We're not considering any of those at this moment. Student educator ratios, we want to stay within policy specifically for our youngest learners. The board does have a policy. Specialized needs, we want to make sure that we're careful about advanced medical needs, for example, or things that would require additional specialized staff that we don't currently have. Operational factors, that's transportation, scheduling, those kind of considerations. Capacity to accommodate, right? How many seats can we flexibly provide and continually, right? We wouldn't want to bring someone here and then feel like we were incapable of continuing them if they desire to stay. Although we do have the right to deny that re-enrollment. And recommendations, strategies for addressing capacity challenges and maintaining quality education, right? So thinking about, we don't want to, because our policy says we can have 25 students, maybe that's not an ideal situation, right? So we want to be sure to take good care of our current learners and all learners that are in our district or come to our district.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, so I think in your opening remarks, I heard that there's some interest.
Yes.
Can you describe that, or what, people interested in potentially coming here?
Yeah, so I had two families reach out. One of them happens to be an employee and is considering private pay to enroll. And then I have another family who is also an employee, actually, whose student currently reside in another district, and they're interested in engaging in a sharing agreement, a tuition agreement with the district to send their student here. And we have seats for both of those opportunities available.
And Melissa, I think I heard you say that there's no guarantee once a student enrolls that they can continue year after year. Are parents aware of that? Because I mean, ideally, once a student comes in, you'd like them to be able to
It's
stay.
part of the policy, and the
Okay.
policy is pretty restrictive. Essentially, we have the right to deny on a lot of categories. We can look at academics, we can look at behavior. We cannot enroll someone who has who's been expelled, obviously, from another district. The policy allows us and clearly states, the application as well, clearly states that there's not a guarantee of re-enrollment.
Do we need to go back and approve the tuition cost?
Yeah, I shared all of those so you could consider. But again, that recommendation for the tuition rate is to set it 80%. The reason we're not putting a number behind that is because every district's cost per pupil varies. And so we're looking at the 80% as that follows the statute. It's reasonable in consideration of the districts around us. It's not, we're not appearing to be overzealous in our rate. So.
Any other comments, questions? May I have a motion to approve the tuition rate at 80%?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You're on a roll, Melissa.
What do you know?
Do we need action on the open seats as well?
Okay,
Action on open seats. I do not think we need action on open seats. It's just an FYI. We're going to publish.
Okay.
That's not true. I did say the district must set the capacity limits. If you're okay with the limits as I've described them, I will take that back and ask you to adopt those seats as presented, and I can repeat them if you'd like.
Melissa, is that subject to change? Or are the numbers hard before we vote on them? Just
They're pretty secure. The only flexibility I would anticipate is at the high school that we may identify more seats. I think we're pretty confident at the threshold here, meaning that we're not going to go any lower than this number, but there may be opportunity to extend a few more open seats at the high school level.
so would you like a motion on the 10% of our,
I'd like a motion to accept the numbers as presented for total open seats between 45 and 56
okay.
students.
Can I have a motion to approve between 45 and 56 open seats?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anything else, Melissa?
I'm sure there is.
Go for it. Go for it.
Not under unfinished business, Chair,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
All right. Moving on to new business. You want to speak to permission to hire?
I do, just briefly. So essentially, the board has, since I have been with the district, offered the superintendent, and in this case, it'll be me temporarily, permission to hire. And essentially what that just does is provide us an opportunity to offer contracts to employees who have been interviewed and are recommended by our interview committees to the superintendent. We set those rates based on collective bargaining agreements mostly. There is an administrator position open that would be in the range of what we currently have in our budget. So we're working within the constraints of what is currently there. And essentially what happens is in August or September, we bring a slate of those folks forward to you for final approval. Their contracts do have a condition in it that says there's sort of an out. If there were ever a situation where the board was categorically opposed, we we could rescind the offer.
All right. So you're asking for a motion to have the permission to hire.
Yes.
Okay. Now I have a motion for approval.
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Elementary trimester reporting versus quarter.
Yeah. And Mr. Saunders is here, and I am glad because he can fill in any gaps here. But essentially, our folks at Hybrid Chill have been working with NHLI on their competencies, and there's been a lot of discussion at this last the May 22nd Professional Development Day about best practices in reporting competence for elementary grade students. So currently we have a standards-based report card that goes into the minutia of what students need to accomplish in a grade band. And the report card is generalized in some respects, but there are still some really finite kinds of things that kids are working on there and that we're reporting out. And oftentimes what happens for some learners, especially our youngest learners who are just getting used to school, is that report card looks pretty bleak at the beginning of the year because there's not a lot of meeting competence or meeting standard because those are end of year standards. And so it presents a picture that isn't necessarily representative of the learner that's in front of them. So the presentation here, the idea here is that we move to a trimester reporting. It is separate from middle and high school. We wouldn't be looking at that at those grades. It doesn't line up with those developmental levels. But it moves that reporting period to about the 12th or 13th week of school, which is a little further out. It's right around parent conference time right now, a week or so later, which is enough time to give some information ahead of reporting, but also gives instructors, teachers time to collect more evidence of learning in order to report out on competence. You'll see that at the PD day I went over, I was talking to folks and they said, well, what about trimesters? And I went, whoa, this isn't a conversation that I had with anyone. And I said, I know that we had been talking about this already once this year, but I didn't know where we landed. And every hand went up in the room when I said, is this a conversation I need to bring to the board? So they are in favor of this shift. Teachers, they're looking at this as an opportunity to provide better. In the interim, there are a number of documents and alternative reporting measures. Some of it's already happening in what they're doing in their monthly and weekly newsletters at each grade. And that information is going to families. But there are additional rubrics that they have worked on, that they are working on continually to provide more information to families as students progress through. And that these 3 chunks of time are just a collection of feedback for families. So they're in favor, and we're looking to see if the board would be in favor of or had any thoughts for discussion around this topic.
I'd like to say that the rationale for moving to trimester makes a lot of sense, given that it would be more in sync with the period that is needed to thoroughly evaluate the skills and the learning that goes on. I'm wondering if there are any cons or downsides to moving to trimester.
Yeah, it is a reduction in the number of reporting periods, right? It goes from 4 to 3. It goes from 4 to 3. Other downsides, not off the top of my head. I, as a practicing teacher in a classroom, we use trimesters. There are many districts who, at the elementary level, use trimesters. It's a very, very common practice. It is much more appropriate at that developmental level. Mr. Saunders, any thought around cons for?
Well, I think one of the things that came up initially was we've set the dates for parent-teacher conference ahead of time, and those exist currently, right? And so shifting this report card time, currently report cards go home at conferences. So when parents come in for that sit down with the teacher, the report card is done and you're speaking to that document. What this, I think, shifts for us in some of our preliminary discussion around this was, the push from teachers was that first quarter is really tight. I mean, we're talking Halloween, we're wrapping it up. In the first, as we know in elementary school, the first few weeks are really getting to know you and learning routines and schedules, less so academic. So that first one really felt shortened, and they felt as though they didn't have a lot to speak to by the time that first, report card came out in around Halloween. What this shifts us to is, what will we have when we do have parent-teacher conferences, because the report card won't be there, right? So we've discussed this idea of potentially having progress reports become a part of our practice midway through, because the other concern, I think the concern is not meeting with parents until later gives you less opportunity to speak to challenges or concerns, right? And so we don't want that to pass by and it become the first conversation we have is a third of the way through the year and we're saying your kiddo's really struggling here. So we're talking about progress reports or something in the interim so that it doesn't, so you don't miss things or lack in response, right? We don't want it to be too late to start to respond if we're having a concern about a student. So progress reports is one, and that may be the document, but one of the things we talked about is what will you have at a parent-teacher conference to share with a family as a concrete thing that's consistent across the grades, right? We don't want the experience from a parent to come in with siblings, the kindergarten experience versus the third grade experience to be drastically different about what are we talking about in these meetings, right? So having a concrete thing that this is what we're going to share with you today, kind of consistently across the board.
And the teachers have, by and large, already done some of this work in terms of when they developed competencies at the elementary level, and this is going back to, I think, October's work with them. They have put the competencies, they've laid them out in sort of where they would occur during the school year based on their current programming. And so they have some already developed benchmarks for what competencies should have been met or should have been worked on at a particular time. And so I anticipate that they'll be able to very easily bring that into that first parent-teacher conference.
I would say that our current report card has, in the key with being standards-based, as Melissa said, one of the challenges is based on when you teach it, there are blanks in some of our quarters where we haven't taught it yet. So kids haven't been assessed. So there's all these standards listed, but not every one of them has a grade to give you how students doing because we haven't gotten there yet. That standard may come up in the third quarter, which means for the first two, there's nothing there. And so this competency shift gives us the ability to report on progress in all of the areas ongoing, and we'll do away with, I think, some of those gaps that we currently have of, if geometry is not in the first quarter, how do I give your student anything on their report card, right? So we're trying to, I think this will help some of that. And I too was surprised, as Melissa said, when teachers have mentioned it sort of in passing, but I didn't realize how passionate they were about the shift. When every hand went up, I was like, okay, here we go,
Okay, done.
All right, any comments or discussion?
I think that you can really turn those progress reports into a significant pro. The way we've got it set up right now, you get the report card on the day of the meeting with the parents, the fait accompli. The first real status they get is, okay, this is what they've done. By doing the progress reports and then the report coming after, I think there's some room for change. Maybe some, impetus for the parents to get more involved, or maybe change the way they talk to their children. But I really believe that trimester, if you can look at it qualitatively versus qualitatively, there's no argument.
All right, may I have a motion to approve moving to a trimester?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous?
Very good. We'll probably have an updated report card to you shortly, maybe August or maybe sooner. I'd love to have something to you before we wrap up, only because the sooner we can get you a draft report card for next year, we can also then start sharing that with families ahead of time and get the notice out there that, hey, it's going to look a little different. So sooner is better, but we'll see what we can do.
All right.
Thank you.
Melissa, something tells me you're not done on this
No,
category.
nope. Indicator 13, prong 2. I talked about that already. Any questions or thoughts about that you all have related to compliance? It's just good news, and I just wanted to thank Mrs. McBee.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Welcome.
Um,
All right. On to the next, Mr. Chair. Okay, we've got independent contract for therapy with Gray Consulting and Therapy LLC. Nope, not related to me whatsoever, and I don't get a cut of this fund. But it is specifically for AAC devices. So we have a couple of students, 5 to be exact, that may require specialized devices for communication. And so you should see, I don't know if you see this contract, but I will pass the rate sheet to you. And essentially, we have potentially 5 students who may require this level 2 evaluation. And so that is over $5,000. And I just want permission to sign the contract for next school year.
Is this a company that we've worked with before?
We have worked with them. Yep. The potential for this to go over $5,000 is real. And so we just wanted to make sure that we went before the board to let you all know what we were going to be doing with that kind of funds.
So it's been bid out or?
It has not, because it's essentially the same. It is a contractor that we've used in the past. You all approved this contract in the fall for this current school year, and we're pleased with their services, and so we would like to continue with them.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the contract with Gray Consulting for, I don't know the exact amount, but it's not much over 5,000.
Per student, it's 3,400 or 3,000. I'm sorry, Mr. Spratt, can you? Level 2. 3375 times 5 students.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Right?
That's unanimous.
you. Okay, and one last one, and then I can stop talking for a minute. You will see, it is in your folder, but I do recognize that you all may not have seen it. I got late word from Mrs. Pope at BMS, who was our DC coordinator this year, that that she had been working with a travel company for next year's DC trip, and they want to set some dates. And so they've provided the cost of the trip for next school year here, and I'll pass this around. We do not have a stipend for a DC coordinator, and we typically do pay one, but because of the cuts to the co-curricular activities, that was one of the stipends that went by the wayside. This company is willing to wrap the stipend into the cost of the trip. It is $1,200, which is the current rate that we've approved in the past. And you'll see the rate table at the top of the page that is facing forward for how much it will cost based on the number of students going to the trip.
I have a couple of questions for Melissa. Do you happen to know how this price compares to this year's trip? It seems awfully high to me, and I'm actually really concerned about the cost being out of reach for many of our families.
Yes, I do agree. This cost is higher than this year's trip. There are fundraising efforts to subsidize some of this. This also does provide us a scholarship opportunity for scholarship for, I think, one student. Do
you know what this year's trip? I know it was a little high because they had to go to a second bus, which is going to be my next question on this. We're looking at high filling the bus at 49 students. What happens if we have 3 more students that want to go and have to go to a second bus?
Yeah, these are great questions that I don't have the answers
and I know
to.
you don't have the answer, but maybe you can pass them along to Sarah. My questions, I had a bunch of questions because DC trips was my baby.
Yeah.
For so long. That what are we looking at how many students are going to be in the upcoming 8th grade class? And that might be something you can answer. So are we looking at maybe only 40 or 45 or 49 students where they gave us prices, or are we looking at 52 students and having to go to a second bus?
That's a great question. I can.
Yeah, and
can
then
get that
my
answer.
other, I mean, I'm just, these prices blew me away as far as, I just felt it's an equity issue for so many of our families here. Is there some way to look at getting prices from other companies? I'm not sure, maybe they weren't happy with the company they went with this year and decided to go different. And that's fine. But can we look at some more price comparisons? Can we look at, I know in the past, prices were a little high because students went to Gettysburg, went to Philadelphia. I didn't quite see Philadelphia on here, and I may have missed it. I kind of looked at this quickly. If Gettysburg were to be cut out, what does that do to the price? Is there any way to make this more affordable for more students?
Yep.
Is my concern. I mean, I know that when I took high schoolers 3 years ago, same number of days, we did 4 nights, 5 days, students paid $850.
Yeah.
And I realize things have gone up. I realize cost of fuel has gone up, but it just strikes me as higher than I'd like to see.
Yeah. I want to.
I saw that, but in the past they've gone to Philadelphia, I thought too, and I didn't see Philadelphia. Yeah. So I don't know whether, if you cut out Gettysburg, does it bring the price down? I know it's a valuable trip going to Gettysburg, but what can we do to make this more affordable for more students? And then even the thought of, here's the price with Gettysburg, here's the price without Gettysburg. Parents, you tell us what you'd like.
Yeah. This year's cost was $13.41.
And that was with a second bus though.
It could be, yes,
Yeah.
could be $13.41.
So we're looking at this price at $14.60 for one bus. What happens when we go to a second bus?
Okay, I've got that down.
Okay.
We have currently 65 seventh graders enrolled. So,
Okay, so if we go to 52 students
Yep.
or 50 students,
Yep.
even, we're looking at a second bus.
Yep.
So I don't know whether you were looking for approval tonight. I'm in a position where I'm not feeling ready to approve until
Okay.
we get some more price comparisons.
that's fair.
So we will put that item under unfinished for continuing for our next meeting.
Yeah, we'll bring it back. I'll reach out to Mrs. Pope. She was hoping to get something solidified, but if we're not comfortable moving forward, we've got a few more questions.
Yeah.
I'll
I'm in
send
full
it.
support of a trip.
Yep.
Just not necessarily this as
Okay.
presented.
that price.
How do we make it work? All right. Anything else, Miss
Yes.
Gray?
I think I can be quiet for just a moment.
All right. May I take over the mic?
Please.
Okay. All right. The next item that we added tonight to this category has to do with a letter that I believe all board members received, an anonymous letter expressing a concern involving a breach of confidentiality in a non-public setting. And I'm going to read the letter to you, and then I'm going to share with you the steps that were taken to address it, to investigate it, et cetera, et cetera. But beginning with the letter, to the Mascenic School Board, there is a rumor going around town that one of your members is talking about a school employee. Apparently, the topics he talked about were only discussed in one of your non-public sessions. This is a very small community, and often rumors and gossip spread quickly. And I feel that if this is true, something should be done about it. We should be able to trust our elected officials to follow the law in all aspects. And if this is true, I believe it is against the law for this person to be talking about what they have talked about. I have never served on a board, but I did serve on my former town's select board in the northern part of the state, and I know that you are not supposed to repeat anything in the non-public sessions that are protected under the law. There is not a lot of trust in the community for our schools and the board in general. And if this is true, I expect something to be done about it and not swept under the rug like it always is. Sincerely, a concerned citizen. All right. So bear with me. I have a fair amount of information to share. When reviewing this letter, the first thing that struck me is that due to the lack of specificity, I could not tell what specific allegation was being made, what specific breach of confidentiality, or specifically who may have been the subject of the breach, much less who performed it. But I do take the letter seriously, as I'm sure the rest of the board does as well. But previous to that, approximately 3 to 4 weeks ago, I was out of town, but I did get a call from the assistant superintendent that an individual had come forward and shared with her that they felt their confidentiality was breached about a topic that involved them that was discussed in non-public. And so I was called about that, and I took a number of initial steps. Even though I wasn't going to be back for about a week to New Ipswich, I talked with Melissa. I talked with Jeremy, who was the sitting in for me as the chair, and so he became aware of the issue as well. And I spoke with both of them primarily to get the facts as they had heard them or they knew them. For one thing, to see if there was any divergence in the facts that they had. So I wanted to gather all of that. And then third, I spoke to the person who feels that their confidentiality was breached to get their version of what transpired. And with insignificant differences, all three stories were the same in terms of the facts. All right, and so I was pleased about that consistency. Now, before I get into any further into the steps, and this is in part for the people who may be watching this or maybe be viewing the tape later, I do want to talk about, because I've also gotten feedback that there's confusion out in the public or questions about why do we have non-public? What is the purpose? Why isn't everything shared with the public? And maybe some suspicion that non-public is a way of covering up things that we don't want to share, that we want to keep secret. And so I'm going to go through the RSA for those who may be listening, and then I'm going to make an invitation to the public as well. But based on the RSAs in New Hampshire, what are the reasons for the school board to go non-public? That's the principal question that's being asked. Under the New Hampshire Right to Know Law, RSA 91-A:3, school boards are only permitted to go into non-public session for specific enumerated reasons. The primary reasons include: 1, personnel matters, discussing hiring, dismissal, promotion, compensation, or disciplinary action of a public employee such as teachers, aides, or administrators. 2, for reputation protection, discussing matters that would likely adversely affect the reputation of someone other than a board member. 3, property transactions, considering the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property, provided public discussion would give an unfair advantage to an adverse party. 4, claims, discussing pending or threatened lawsuits against the school district. 5, emergency functions, preparing for or carrying out emergency functions related to terrorism. 6, security and safety, matters relating to the preparation and carrying out of emergency functions or measures intended to protect the safety of citizens or employees from terrorist attacks. Now, what I'd like to add to that is that still may not be clear, or there may be questions regarding this. I know that we all live in a small community, small rural community. where everybody seems to know one another or has heard of everybody or is related to everybody or is married everybody or something along those lines. And in talking with other experts following my having received this report, I have learned that I will say accidental breaches of confidentiality are not that uncommon, because you may end up in a role such as a school board member. You have family members working in the school district. You have relatives, neighbors, best friends. And sometimes your mindset is such that you think of that other person that's in front of you with that kind of relationship, rather than being mindful that even though I am related to you, even though you are a good friend, even though you are a neighbor, I have a boundary that I must maintain. And I think sometimes that can be lost a little bit more easily in a small community than in a major city, for instance. So I just wanted to put that out there. But I then went and took a number of steps after I collected the information, and particularly from the individual who had lodged the complaint. I then knew that I'd be back in town in less than a week, and I set up a time to meet with the board member who was involved in the alleged breach, and shared with them the information that I had received and asked them to describe the course of events as they recall it and what their thinking was and so forth. And I have to say that not only was this person incredibly cooperative and remorseful, but their version of what happened matched everybody else's version. The facts were all the same. I did get the sense in talking with this individual that the concept of this as a breach didn't really wasn't mindful, and in part because this information was shared with somebody who was considered a close friend. And I think that's where, again, the not having the mindfulness that even though it's a close friend, there are specific boundaries that must be maintained. When we talked, I felt very strongly that there were three things that I wanted to look at. Was the person aware that a breach was being committed at the time that it was happening? Was there an intent to commit a breach? You know, for instance, hey, I really want to help you out and I'm going to share this information, even though I shouldn't, you know, an intentional breach. Third was, what was the degree of harm, if any, that was done by the breach? Now, I concluded after meeting with the individual and discussing it, going back and discussing it with the assistant superintendent, I felt very strongly that there was no intent. There was a lack of awareness at the time that it was happening. I refer to that as kind of an error in judgment, and I will say a forgetfulness or perhaps an inadequate understanding of the RSAs as it pertains to this. I am confident that this type of occurrence will not reoccur again, but I'm wanting to share all the steps that were taken so that there is total transparency for those who may be watching this. Certainly, I take the letter that we received to heart. It concerns me that there is a perception out there, not a surprise, but nevertheless, I'm disappointed that there was a perception among some that trust is compromised with the school district and or the board, and perhaps even a perception that sometimes we cover things up and sweep things under the carpet. So I wanted to bring all of this for a discussion to the board. And at this point, what I'd like to do is ask if the individual on the board who did violate the confidentiality would like to share anything.
Yes, I'd like to It was me. I apologize. I took the training and I felt comfortable and it wasn't there of judgment. It's a serious infraction. So I do apologize for it.
I do want to add that after I spoke with Tim, and we spent quite a long time sitting and talking and reviewing the RSAs and reviewing the implications, the boundary issues, aside from the breach that were involved, that this cannot be repeated. This cannot occur again. Okay. The RSA 43 refers to the procedure for dismissal, which requires a petition to Superior Court to present the facts and ask the court whether the facts meet the standard for dismissal. But in this case, I felt dismissal was not necessary. I did talk also with my thoughts with the individual who unfortunately was the subject of the breach, shared with that individual my findings and my thoughts. And that individual shared with me that they were satisfied with what was done. They were satisfied because it was taken seriously. It was acted upon relatively quickly as soon as I got back into town. That we followed up with all parties that were involved and did education and training over what I thought was amiss. And that even though I can say that there was no significant harm, I do believe that there certainly was at least some compromise in trust that occurred from the event, and perhaps questioning of relationships, friendship versus colleague, and how do you navigate having both at the same time when parties are obligated to keep certain information confidential. And so I think if any harm was done, that was it. So I would like to recommend to the board that the steps that were taken be sufficient and that no other steps, and in particular petitioning Superior Court at this point is not necessary. But I look to the board for discussion and feedback before we as a group make a decision.
Have you gotten advice from counsel?
I did speak with counsel.
Are you able to share it in public?
No, but counsel did share with me who to talk to, how to talk to them, what I needed to hear. Counsel, I will say counsel also felt that after I got all the facts from all the parties that were involved, counsel did feel that this did not rise to the level of a petition to Superior Court. And then I spoke with counsel again today in anticipation of sharing this tonight, just to dot the I's and cross the T's to make sure that there wasn't anything I was leaving out. Any thoughts, any comments?
Yeah, I have a question there. It sounded like the subject of the breach is satisfied with the way things have been handled. I just wanted some reassurance that we're not looking at any legal liability based upon this happening. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to, the best way I can answer you is the feedback that I got from the individual who's was the subject of the breach. He understood, and this is what he said to me, he understood that the information that was discussed in non-public should not have been shared, but he also understood that it was shared with him out of a friendship as opposed to with any malintent. Okay. And I think that made a difference to him as well.
Okay, so he's satisfied with the result. We're not looking at any further action.
No, not,
on
nothing
this
has been said to me and I
Okay.
did not get that indication. Any other thoughts? Any other comments?
I'd like to hear what the lawyer had to say and on the comment Ellen just made. Nothing that you have said precludes future litigation.
No, I cannot.
Censure, civil lawsuits, et cetera, without some paperwork that the party who was harmed signs off on, we're liable.
Okay. What I can do is I can contact counsel and ask counsel to meet with us to entertain all questions. That is satisfactory.
I think if the district and the board are going to be covered, it has to be done in that fashion.
Okay.
Just as we handled procedures in the past where both the plaintiff and whatever have signed off that these are the limits of the agreement and that they must be adhered to.
Okay.
And is there anything in this breach or this instance that could impact the person's, it's a he, you get that part, job performance or, I'm not sure how I'm wording this very well. Does it impact their ability to do their job? Was there any, and I guess I'm not wording that way. I have to rethink how I want to word that one.
Well, I tell you what, you take time to think of
Okay.
what you want to ask. You may think of more questions.
And I can certainly,
After tonight.
with counsel, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I will see if council can join us for our next board meeting. And we'll hold that in non-public.
Yep.
All right.
What's the purpose?
Any meeting with counsel is available to be done in a non-public.
Yeah.
Comment on the procedure, because this is a board matter and this can, only employee topics can go into non-public.
Not,
So this has to be
well, I think with counsel.
for transparency.
Yeah.
I think any meetings
I'd like
with
to
counsel.
check the procedure.
Okay.
We,
Make
with
sure
meetings
we're
with council, we
correct.
can do that in non-public.
Okay.
And we will be discussing the employee that's involved. So,
Okay, that would,
yeah.
Yeah, and one other thing, Tim, I have to say, I give you credit for admitting it and for learning from it. I am going to throw that out there.
All right. So I don't know if it's necessary, but can I have a motion that the actions that the board will take at this point is to invite council to our next board meeting for a non-public discussion? Is that necessary?
Does that require a vote for action?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's necessary.
Okay,
I'm not sure that's necessary.
okay,
I think that could be put on the agenda and, as a subject coming up, you invite counsel, find if counsel can be here and that sort of
Okay.
thing, but I don't think it requires a motion.
okay.
It's a future action without any,
Is it possible, or throwing out there, meeting with counsel before the meeting, so counsel is not sitting here waiting for non-public?
We can, yes,
Yeah, I'm just thinking, and
We can-
the best use of
we can
her
make it,
time and the
yes.
best use of,
we could do
Paying
it
her
like
for
at
her
5:30 or whatever.
Yeah,
If she,
absolutely.
if she is available. Yeah,
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, Ellen, for bringing that up. All right, thank you for listening to all of this. I appreciate your input. All right,
Mr. Chair, I'd like
Yes.
to send our principals home. Given we've got a few things left to go and they've had very long days.
and long days ahead.
Very long days ahead, so I'd like to dismiss them
Oh,
if that's okay.
so you guys came in the morning?
I think Greg needs to set up a cot up at his office there.
I
instead of
I was
driving.
curious because my back was turned, but I thought I heard snoring. I wasn't sure. But by all means, thank you for coming.
12-hour days are long enough, folks. A little bit more than that for you, Greg.
14.
Yeah,
That's why I say you need a cot, or actually the life skills room down there has a nice couch, I've heard.
Is that from personal experience?
No.
Yeah.
I admired it when I went in there
Yeah,
years
yeah,
ago,
yeah.
like,
Good night, gentlemen.
All right. Where are we?
Policies are next.
Oh, goody. All right.
Okay, policy, we had our meeting earlier today, and I'll give you a quick recap. There was 4 policies up for review on EEAG, which is private vehicle usage, and that's pursuant with making sure that we have extracurricular, co-curricular, extracurricular coverage in Boynton, most commonly for the sports program. We have some minor language adjustments for, I would call it for clarification. And the second policy we covered was AC, and that is non-discrimination, equal opportunity employment. It was an initial discussion, and we reviewed the current changes to bring forward at a later meeting. The third policy was DAF, administration of federal grant funds. First read, and we'll pull it to the next meeting. There's the differences are fiscal threshold was changed, and some inventory and loss language. And then the fourth policy was DFA for investment, and we need to have this back to just a general initial discussion with the committee. There's quite a bit to discuss, and we also need business administrator input. And I'll turn to Melissa to see if there's anything additional or that covers what we did.
You got it all, Tim.
Okay.
All right. Agenda building. Does anybody have anything that they would like, that they've thought of that has not been on the agenda tonight or recently that you would like to see put on the agenda for the next meeting?
I was just going to make one suggestion that we move the agenda building until after all the reporting, like we do it before the personnel, if something comes up and whatever. Just put it as, if we can, my suggestion would be to put it just before the final public comments.
Okay.
It's the last thing we do in the meeting
Okay.
is to look ahead.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, personnel report.
Personnel. There is a laundry list of personnel things in the folder this evening. Some of them being positions, stipend requests. I do have a last minute addition that I want to bring to your attention. It will be a nomination. Let me just get back into this. I have an updated device and it goes to sleep too quickly. So Mr. Heath Vincent and I will be chatting tomorrow so I can get that fixed because I tried to figure it out and I don't know. You will see in the personnel report, I'm going to add item number 13. There is a personnel, an application in their initials, SH, last name starts with H. This is an elementary educator, new hire, replacing a position, and fourth grade position. And this person has a bachelor's step 4, so would be looking at a salary of $52,250 according to the current collective bargaining agreement. So if the board would so entertain, we have 13 nominations with that person, 2 resignations with regret, and the retirement also with regret. That retirement will be coming back part-time going forward. They'll be separated from the district for a short amount of time, but is ready to do a little less. So.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the entire slate, personnel slate?
I'll make the motion to approve the slate, accept the resignations with regret and retirement.
Thank you.
and I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
The other thing that you'll see is in the folder, Mr. Chair, the summer positions, we have 26, 27 summer programming slate. As I mentioned, there's about $15,000,
Bless you.
excuse me, about $30,000 worth of programming here with several camps for students across all of our buildings and several professional development requests across all of our buildings. So I'm looking for approval of that slate. Those folks would like to send invitations out to families ASAP.
All right.
I have a quick question on one of them. If you
Yep.
look at, they're not numbered, but the third one down, the stipend, is that a typo?
Third one down under the stipend.
Yeah, are we missing an extra, are we missing a zero there? So I want to make sure if we approve, we're approving correctly.
Third one. Oh, at the top? No, that's correct.
Oh, that is correct.
Yep, yep.
Oh, okay.
I have a quick question. I noticed that one of the individuals on this list is also one of the individuals who put in their resignation.
Yes.
Does that have an effect on any of that or
It
no?
doesn't. So we have an opportunity to, they receive a supplemental contract in order to do these, hence why we get approval from the board. And so separately, we'll extend them the rate that we currently offer under the collective bargaining agreement to facilitate the club. So.
And how long do these summer programs last?
Some of them are a few days long. Some of them are.
Hence that one that isn't. Okay.
Yep, some of them are a few hours. What you see here for the camps are a variation of the time commitment. The ones that are lengthy have several weeks or several sessions attached to them. The ones that are quite short are again just a couple of hours of time. Some of them are a couple of field trip days that are going to be 6 or 8 hour days for folks. And there's a contingency for some of these for participation. You'll see that there are several folks, for example, for the field trip camp, that's contingent on participants. All of those people may or may not participate as chaperones, but we have budgeted for that many chaperones in the event we have 40 students participate.
Okay. So looking again at the top one, I see 3 for hiking camp. Are these 3 working together or
Yes.
They are. So it depends on how many students.
It is the number of chaperones are contingent on the number of students who participate.
Okay, so not
So-
all of them may end up working.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But the plan is that they will have enough students for that. And there's a threshold that essentially if there aren't 5 students, we're not running. And if there are more than, depending on the kind of camp, hiking camp is, my hope is that, we're well taken care of when we're taking kids up a mountain and that we have more than one adult there
Yes.
to take care of kids. So, so there's some flexibility there with the numbers, but we're not running camps with 1 or 2 students that have, 3 chaperones
So
to.
you don't necessarily have a set ratio. It's going to depend on what the activity.
Yes,
is.
But ideally, the threshold for beginning is about 5.
Okay.
And then for an additional chaperone, depending on the activity, between 7 and 10.
Okay. And where does the funding for this come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm sorry that I didn't indicate. These are all funded through Title II, Title IV, and RLIS grants.
Okay.
This is not general. This is all grant funded.
Okay.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the summer programming of approximately, you said 30,000 altogether?
Yeah, it's probably a little more, about right
Okay.
around 30,000. Yeah.
So,
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, it's
Thank you.
unanimous. All right, now we have an opportunity for final public comments. Anybody online? Nope. Okay, since there is no one here and no one online, we will pass over the final public comments and we will enter into non-public. We have a number of items that need to be discussed in non-public tonight. May I have a motion to move into non-public?
What are the things, what are the items we can be pressed? Go ahead, do the job.
A matter of reputation, as I'm looking at it, yes, all of it is a matter of reputation. 5,
5 matters of reputation.
yeah.
Make a motion to go into non-public session under RSA 91-8:3, 2, A-B, pursuant to the matters of reputation to discuss 5 items.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, may I have a roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. We will take a 5-minute break and we will come back right on the hour to pick up.